Hello dear students, welcome back to my YouTube channel Physiology Learning. In today's discussion, we are discussing the special senses, and now we have completed the special senses. The first part I would say, that is the vision. We have completed in depth of the vision, so you can check it in the playlist section as well as in the course section. Today we are going to start the next segment, that is the hearing. Hearing is also one of the special senses, and in today's video we are going to take upon the functional anatomy of the ear. In the next coming videos, we are going to discuss about the auditory pathway, then the physiology of hearing and theories of hearing along with auditory cortex, and then the hearing function test and the vestibular apparatus. And finally, we are going to discuss about the perception of smell and taste, which are also the special senses. So coming to today's topic, the functional anatomy of the ear. The ear is an organ which can do two things. One is it is an organ for hearing, another one it is an organ for vestibular apparatus. The vestibular apparatus, we are going to do a separate thing that is going to help in equilibrium. So its function is for equilibrium. So that we have kept it at the last, that is the vestibular apparatus. So today we will be discussing primarily on the organ for hearing anatomy, that is the ear. So the ear, basically it is divided into external ear, that is the outer ear, then the middle ear, then the inner ear. The outer ear is very simple. It has an external acoustic meatus and the auditory canal. These are the two parts of it, and it goes and ends at the tympanic membrane, and following that the tympanic membrane, three bones, that is malleus, incus, stapes, all of them will be forming the bones of the middle ear. In the inner ear, we have one important structure called the cochlea, and this cochlea is going to house some of the important hair cells which are going to help in hearing as well as in the balance. Then there are two more important muscles. One is called the stapedius muscle, and stapedius muscle, as the name denotes, it is attached to the stapes bone. So we saw three bones, malleus, incus and stapes. Out of these, the stapes has one speciality. It is the smallest bone in the body. It is the smallest bone in the body. So that is its significance. But its function is very, very beautiful. It is going to do a lot in helping the hearing process. And there is one more muscle which is attached to the, you can say, the malleus. You can see here there is one more muscle, that is a tensor tympani muscle. And this tensor tympani muscle is going to come to this oral cavity region to create a balance. So this tensor tympani muscle and stapedius muscle are two important muscles which are located in the ear. So this is all about the primary functional anatomy. Now we are going to discuss one region by region. First, coming to the external ear. So when you see the external ear, all of us have something called here, that is a pinna. This pinna will help for two things. One is the convergence of sound. Second thing is very, very important, especially in lower animals, you must have seen they can deviate their pinna. That is for the sound localization. So it can do one beautiful function, that is localization of sound. In humans, we are not deviating the ear. Some people can do it, but still, what is its function is it can localize from which direction the sound is coming. Suppose, for example, somebody is talking from the right side of me. It will reach the right pinna first and then reach the left pinna. So by this knowledge, it can help to identify from which direction the sound is coming approximately. And the external ear can increase the sound decibel by up to 15 decibel. How it is doing it? Because it is acting like a converging point. It is converging it to the external auditory meatus. And the external auditory canal helps to conduct the sound. After this, they will reach the middle ear. So it is going to just conduct the sound to the middle ear. So what happens in the middle ear? The middle ear, as we have seen, it has a lot of parts. The first one is the tympanic membrane. So the sound waves traveling, they will go and hit the tympanic membrane. And this tympanic membrane can act like a resonator. They can dampen the sound. They act like a mechanical barrier, because this impulse is going to go to the brain, and all of this function is done by the tympanic membrane. It is acting like a vibrator, resonator, and dampening of the sound and mechanical barrier. And three important ossicles we have seen, that is the malleus, incus and stapes. Why these three important bones we have? They also help in a little bit of amplification. They also help in an amplification process. So that is important. Then coming to the ossicular muscles, two muscles we saw. One is the tensor tympani and stapedius. What is the function of tensor tympani? Suppose you are chewing something in the mouth. So this sound also will be transmitted to the brain, and it will be annoying to the brain. It can dampen that sound, and not only that sound, whenever some external influence sound is coming, it can block the loud noises also. It will help to prevent from loud noises. So they can increase the muscle tension of the malleus, and then this malleus will make the tympanic membrane stiff so that loud sound is not being passed through it, and it is more responsive to sound and decreases the own sounds like chewing or when you talk amongst yourself, decrease the own sounds. The example is when chewing. And next comes the stapedius muscle. The stapedius muscle is also very, very important. It is going to perform one important reflex, which is also called as tympanic reflex. Tympanic reflex. Whenever there is a loud sound and it is continuous, what we generally do, we will obstruct the ear, but sometimes without obstruction also, the sound's intensity is being decreased. How does this happen? Because this beautiful muscle, the stapedius, it decreases the intensity of loud sound. How does it do is, this is the one which is going to attach to the oval window. In the cochlea, we will find a region called as oval window where this stapedius is going and getting attached. It is called oval window. What it does is, for the sound to be transmitted, first it has to come through the tympanic membrane, then the ossicular chain, then it has to be transmitted in the oval window. But right now it is a very loud sound. So what the stapedius muscle will do is, it will separate and increase the distance between the oval window and the stapes. So it will separate and increase the distance. So now not much of sound is transmitted into the oval window, so we will not perceive it as a very, very, very loud sound. But if a sound is very sudden, then this muscle cannot act immediately, so that is going to damage the ear. But if the sound is increasing in a constant tone, then this will come into action. The ossicular muscle, they also suppress the low frequency sounds. That is another function. Then next, coming to the Eustachian tube. Eustachian tube is nothing but the region where this ear is getting connected to the oral cavity. So this tube is the Eustachian tube where the tensor tympani muscle is also there. And this Eustachian tube will help to create a balance between the pressure. It balances the pressure between the oral cavity and the ear. And many of you, when you're traveling in an aeroplane, you must have felt that your ears are getting blocked and it is going to be very, very painful. So there the equilibration of the pressure is not happening. And to perform that, we have a lots of maneuver. I am going to tell one, you are going to tell the other things in the comment section. So one of the commonest maneuver is, they will ask you to do a chewing gum. Suppose if you are chewing a gum, it will help to neutralize the pressure between equalize the pressure between the oral cavity and the ear, and you will not have pain. There are other maneuvers also which you must have done it yourself. So try to put it in the comment section. What are the techniques by which this mechanism will help to prevent or balance the pressure? Next, coming to the function of the middle ear. So already we have seen that it receives and transmits the sound waves. And one important function it does is, it is called impedance matching. What is this impedance matching is, when a sound is traveling from air, because from the air it is coming, and after that it is going to the stapes and following by that into the oval window. In the oval window, there are some fluids which will help to conduct this sound. So it is going to the fluid medium. Next, it is going to the fluid medium. So when air to fluid it is traveling, then the sound dampening will happen. So it has to be matched. This sound effect has to be matched. So that process is called as impedance matching. It is done by two systems. One system is, the tympanic membrane is larger in size. All this larger in size, it is being conducted to a very narrow part, that is the foot of the stapes. So the size of the tympanic membrane is around 50 millimeters square, the area, whereas the oval window is just 3 millimeters square. So the ratio, if you see in size, it is 17:1. So 17 it is receiving and pinpointing it to one particular region. So this increases the sound 17 times. And next thing is the ossicular chain mechanism. The ossicular chain mechanism, the malleus, incus and stapes, they are acting like a pulley. So whenever you use a pulley, it also increases the force of transmission. So it increases by it 1.3 times. What is the total increase? 17 times into 1.3 times, which is around 22 times. This impedance matching has to be done because the sound is traveling from air to the fluid. See this beauty of this mechanism. It is devised in such a way, this dampening which happens between air and fluid is being equalized, we can say. Next is equilibrization of the pressure. Then prevention of the loud sounds by the help of tympanic reflex, that is done by the stapedius. Next, coming to the most important structure, that is the inner ear. And what is this small creature or animal? All of you know, it is a snail, and this snail has a specific shape in this shell of the snail. So this shape, this is the snail shell shape, and it is called as cochlea. So there is one structure in the inner ear which is looking like this structure, like a coil structure. That's why it is called as cochlea. So this cochlea term is derived from the Greek origin. So it is cochlea, which means that something that is shaped like a coil-like structure. So let's see what is the function of this cochlea and what is its various different structures. So the inner ear is housed in a structure that is called bony labyrinth. Bony labyrinth is nothing but it is in the temporal bone. It is present in the temporal bone, and this has to be protected from the external environment. So that's why it has a very important bony structure. Inside that bony structure, there are tubes like that. Suppose, for example, if you are in a housing, there are some rigid tube. You can assume this part as the rigid tube, and inside the rigid tube, there is another tube which is present here. So this rigid tube is the bone, and these are called as membranous labyrinth. These are called as membranous labyrinth. And what is this term labyrinth is? Labyrinth is something like all of you must have heard or played a maze. Suppose, for example, there is multiple places here and there it is going, and the start of the person will be there, and there will be a reward or something at the edge. So this is the reward. So now they will ask you to trace the pathway. In which pathway you can go? This is called as the maze. In a maze, there are multiple possibilities. But when you talk about labyrinth, it has only one possibility. If you keep on moving through that possibility, you will finally reach the end destination. Like that, this housing is designed in such a way that it is called as labyrinth because it is a single pathway to follow. Next, what are the structures present? Cochlea, I've already told you. Then there is something called vestibule, and there are 3 semicircular canals. This vestibule and semicircular canal we will be discussing in the vestibular apparatus. So once you take out this bone and see inside, this is the blue color tube. I already told you there is another tube which is inside. This blue color tube is nothing but the membranous labyrinth, and in the cochlea, inside that it is called as cochlear duct. So inside it is called as ducts, cochlear duct. And here these are the semicircular canal duct. And inside the vestibule, we have 2 important organs which are involved in balance, that is the utricle and saccule. This utricle and saccule, semicircular canals and vestibular apparatus we will discuss in detail in the vestibular apparatus. Now when you cut section the cochlea, as you can see here, the diagram already I have drawn. So there is some fluid present here, and this fluid is continuing from one end to the other end. So the outside fluid is nothing but perilymph. The outside fluid is nothing but perilymph. Whereas which is present inside the tube, the blue tube, is called as the endolymph. And when you do a cross section, what will happen when I do a cross section? So the upper part will be there, then the blue tube will be there, then again the lower part will be there. So this is the cross section. So the upper part and the lower part, both of them will have the perilymph because it is just a continuation, whereas the middle part will have some other fluid, that is the endolymph. So this is the arrangement which is there when you do a cross section. And this connecting area, which I am drawing in black now, this connecting area is called as helicotrema. I know it is a little bit of complicated anatomy, but I am taking my time here because it is very important to understand this, because later on when you study the other structures and functions, this will help you to orient yourself. So when I do a cross section, there will be a perilymph area above and below. So the above area is called as scala vestibuli, and the below area is called as scala tympani, and the middle area is called as so we have the scala vestibuli, then scala tympani. But if I ask you what is the fluid in both of them? In both of them we will have the perilymph. There is one in the middle, so the name did scala media in the middle, which has the endolymph. So scala media will have endolymph. So this is the structure. So in a cross section, the connecting region, they have showed it here as the helicotrema, which I have shown it. So all of this will have the hair cells and other things, and finally they will be connected and going through the cochlear nerve. Let's go in depth of this structure. So now they have done a cross section, and in the cross section we have the scala vestibuli, and below the scala vestibuli we have the first membrane, that is the resinous membrane. Then after that we have scala media. The scala media has one important structure which is called stria vascularis. So it is having some vasculature which is going to secrete a lot of potassium. So my endolymph, which is present in the scala media, will have lots and lots of potassium. So the depolarization is also done by the help of these potassium ions. So remember this fact also. Then the scalar media. Then below the scalar media, we have another membrane, the membrane number 2, that is called as the basilar membrane. So that is called as the basilar membrane. And below the basilar membrane, we have the scalar tympanic. So scalar media, vestibularly, what is the fluid? It is perilymph. Scalar tympanic, it is perilymph. What is present in the media? It is endolymph. Why we have separate fluids? In the endolymph, the potassium levels are higher, whereas in the perilymph, the sodium levels are higher. Why this differentiation is there is because I have to generate the potential. So I should have some differentiation in the fluid like an ECF and an ICF. So in a similar manner, this perilymph acts like an ECF, wherein it has lots of sodium and chloride, whereas in the endolymph it has potassium, which will help us to generate the endocochlear potential. Because actually the ear is not hearing the sound. The ear is transmitting the sound into an electrical signal. That electrical signal is perceived by the brain as the sound. So that's why this mechanism is happening. Next, if you take a deeper look at this particular area, this area is called as the organ of corti. So this diagram I have already explained. Here we have the stapes, which is going to come and hit in the oval window, and it is going to be transmitted in the fluid. This above region I have already told you is helicotrema, and below, if it is coming, it is called scalar tympanic. In between we have the scalar media, and this window is called as the round window, because when the force is hitting, the sound is traveling, and the traveling waves are going to oscillate the hair cells, which is going to create the sound. But if there is excess pressure, that has to be dispersed back. That is done with the help of round window. So this will disperse excess vibrations. Now coming to the organ of corti, which is the organ for hearing. So it is nothing but organ of corti. I have already shown you this area. If you zoom in this area, that area is called as the organ of corti, which is where the hair cells are housed in. So let's see what all things it has. It has one row of inner hair cells. So this inner hair cells, there is only one row of inner hair cells. But the inner hair cells are the one which is going to get attached to the vestibulocochlear nerve, which is going to convert this mechanical energy into an action potential. And there is outer hair cells. This outer hair cells will help to increase the sensitivity of the inner hair cells, and generally they have 3 rows of outer hair cells. Okay, and these hair cells will have a cilia on it, which is going to vibrate when the tectorial membrane is vibrating. So this is the tectorial membrane which is on top of it. When this tectorial membrane is moving in that fluid, what is going to do? The hair cells are attached to it, it will vibrate the hair cells like this. So how this mechanical energy is transmitted into neural signals? So they are further zoomed into the hair cells. The hair cells will have structures like this, the cilia, and the taller-most cilia, as you can see here, it is called as the stercocilia. The topmost one, tallmost one is called as the stercocilia. And they will have a wire-like connection. Suppose this is one hair cell, the next hair cell will be like this, and in between them there is a wired connection like this. So when they move, what is going to happen? This wire is going to stretch. So that is why it is called as a mechanical sensor. It is mechanically opening. There is no chemical or nothing is coming. The mechanical movement is going to open. So when they are being stretched, which channel is going to open? The potassium channels are going to be open. And already we know the endolymph has lots and lots of potassium, and all these potassium will enter into the hair cell. And potassium is positively charged. When positively charged ion is entering into the ear, we will create membrane depolarization. When the membrane is depolarized, what will happen? The calcium will enter, because the calcium is a voltage gated type of calcium channel. Now because of depolarization, calcium is entering, and the calcium will release the vesicle stored neurotransmitter. Here it is glutamate, and this glutamate will act upon the afferent neurons, and finally they will be taken to the vestibulocochlear nerve, to the brain. So now we have reached here. Next we are going to understand how this auditory pathway is going to track it and take it to the brain. So that we will do it in a separate video. So this is the basic functional anatomy of the ear. We have started with external ear, ended with the internal ear and the membrane potential. I hope it's clear. Thank you for watching the video. Stay tuned for more such videos. Thank you so much.